right, let's do this thing. I'm tired. Do I have COVID? I don't know. I love science. Science is great. Okay. Hello everyone. Right away, I want to thank you for coming back to my channel for another video. Today, I'm kicking off a series that's all about something that is near and dear to my heart, fiction. But not just any works or work of fiction. The works of fiction that I teach to my students at Johns Hopkins University, where I'm a graduate student and I teach 1 or 2 reading and writing intensive courses per semester to some of the brightest undergraduates in the country. Okay, but before we dig in, I'll pose the age-old question that I know the algorithm is just dying for me to get to, and that's, why do I think this video is worth your time? I have to stop hitting this plant. So I think this video can be worth your time because I want to help you actualize your full potential and achieve your goals, whether you want to be a better reader or become a better creative writer or both, or neither, or something else. I want to help you however I can, and that's kind of the purpose of this video and the videos to come. And I think reading fiction can help us do both of those things. That's been my experience, and it's what I try to communicate to my students, because I think many young people are done a serious disservice by not being taught about the value that reading fiction can offer us. So this is an idea that I've talked a lot about in other videos, and one that I'm sure I'll be talking about as this series goes on. So for now, I'll leave it at this. I love fiction. I love writing it. I love reading it. I think it's enriched my life, and I want to communicate my feelings about it to you, because I think consuming fiction, especially great fiction, can be extremely valuable. It can help us. It can help us become better people, better thinkers. Today's video is going to be kind of an introduction for the series ahead. I'm going to be briefly touching on what I believe the value of reading fiction is. I'll be going over the short stories that we'll be reading together and that I'll be talking about, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I hope to communicate throughout the series. So first and foremost, I'll say again, I teach reading and writing intensive undergraduate courses at Johns Hopkins University. At the time of this video's release, I'm a second-year graduate student at the writing seminars, which is like Johns Hopkins creative writing department. I'm originally from Wisconsin. I'm currently living in LA with my girlfriend and our Pembroke Welsh Corgi named Finnegan, Finn for short, who's featured in all of the thumbnails. But yeah, living in LA because classes have been online since March of 2020. So my all-time favorite writer is James Joyce, but I also love Marcel Proust. I love Dostoevsky, Vladimir Nabokov, Herman Melville, Joy Williams, Anton Chekhov. That's a few. Okay, so maybe you know those names, maybe you don't. Honestly, they're not important at all, really. They don't matter. I'm only mentioning them to give you some idea of what fiction I read and what voices are kind of always spinning around in my head. Okay, but enough about me. I'm going to quickly move through the short stories that I'll be talking about in this series. For the fiction half of this course, we're going to be looking at short stories by James Joyce, Jamaica Kincaid, Tobias Wolff, Virginia Woolf, Ernest Hemingway, Flannery O'Connor, George Saunders, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and others. I'll be discussing about 15 or so short stories. I'm reading everything out of this behemoth, this absolute nightmare of a book, which is the 8th edition Norton Anthology of Short Fiction, which is one of the 2 assigned texts for this course, the other being the 8th edition Norton Anthology of Poetry. So yeah, a pretty expensive anthology. This is somewhere around $100, if I'm not mistaken, but I will say that word on the street is that all of these stories are available somewhere online as PDFs if you search the short story titles and author names. But this is not a recommendation or an endorsement to find free short stories online. So anyways, back to the readings we're going to be working through. None of the 15 or so stories are too long. In my experience, they usually take like 45 minutes at most to work through. You know, that's the beauty, I think, of reading short fiction. It's like a bang for your buck kind of thing, or something like that. You're basically optimizing time for value. Don't get me wrong, reading longer fiction is extremely valuable. I mean, I would never say that, obviously, but the point that I'm trying to make is that, you know, if you only have, let's say, a half an hour, you have 20 minutes, you know, reading short fiction can be great because you can kind of understand the full story in that time window. So the stories are going to be broken up and discussed in the context of 5 units. Each unit will focus on 1 or 2 craft elements for creative writing. So I will run through everything really quickly, but I'll say right away that I'll post a PDF or something, some doc with the full list in the description. So if you're at all interested, check that out. So the first unit is going to focus on detail and scene, and we'll be looking at Araby by James Joyce from his collection Dubliners, one of my favorite stories and books, more generally Dubliners, and Girl by Jamaica Kincaid. The second unit will focus on the craft element of character, meaning how writers get, let's say, the humanity of their characters on the page. And for the character unit, we'll be reading A New Man by Edward P. Jones, Rules of the Game by Amy Tan, and Bullet in the Brain by Tobias Wolff. Okay, the third unit will focus on place and setting, which is to say how each of the stories offers its reader a sense of place that is unique to the world of the story. We'll be reading A Good Man is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor, Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway, and Kew Gardens by Virginia Woolf. Kew Gardens is notorious for not being a student favorite in my class, let's say. You know, I'll talk more about it when we get there. I'll say that. Okay, the fourth unit will focus on point of view, which is kind of difficult to summarize in a single line or, you know, in something short, but basically it means something like the perspective from which the story is communicated to the reader. You know, in the context of literature, it's kind of hard to describe, but I feel like generally speaking, people know what point of view means, but maybe you don't. And if you don't, let me know in the comments. So for our point of view unit, we'll be reading Victory Lap by George Saunders, Cathedral by Raymond Carver, and The Handsomest Drowned Man in the World by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. The fifth unit is going to focus on plot and story, which, you know, roughly means the way the stories unfold and how the events of the story kind of meaningfully compound. All right, and during the fifth unit, we'll be reading In the Cemetery Where Al Jolson is Buried by Amy Hempel, The Management of Grief by Bharati Mukherjee, and Towns of Cats by Haruki Murakami. Okay, anyways, personally, I think all of these stories are really, really exceptional and just, yeah, fantastic works of art, and I hope that you will too. Like I said at the beginning of the video, my goal is to help you achieve your goals and actualize your full potential. And I think literature is a tried and true art form for doing both of those things. So whether you want to be a better creative writer or a better reader of fiction, or you're just interested in reading more, whatever the case may be, whatever has brought you here, I think spending time with these works of fiction can be worth your time. And I want to help optimize the value they can offer because, again, I want to help you out however I can. And I think that, you know, and this is something I've mentioned in other videos, I think that the value of reading great fiction is that it offers us like something that closely approximates simulated or vividly hallucinated lived experience, which is to say, lived experience that isn't our own, but is kind of presented in a way that's clear enough and true enough and distilled enough that it stays with us when we close the book. That's the value, at least I think, one of the greatest values that reading fiction kind of offers us. All right, let's wrap it up. I am tired. I have to film one more. Okay, so that's everything I got, but before I go, I want to thank you, my wonderful viewer for sticking with me to the end. I also want to thank my video editors, Joe and Bach. I couldn't do this without you guys. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all your hard work. And again, I will thank you one more time, my lovely viewer. If you found this video interesting or useful or helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. It really means a lot to me. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I would love to chat with you. So I think that's it. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.